A leader has a vision, but it's difficult to articulate because the vision has a lot of intangibles in it also, and something which you can't show right now. Maybe 5 years later it'll show up, but right now you can't show. How to articulate? How do you really connect to people below who cannot see that picture? I don't know. It's a very difficult question.
It's what I feel is, see, the constant communication. One of the constant communication is how well you are connected. You don't follow the hierarchy. You see, I've seen some companies where if you have to go to a senior person's room, you really fear. I mean, I'm talking about anybody. The guy may have some brilliant idea. How the leader connects with the people is very, very important. That's what I feel will make a person successful.
Yeah, sometimes it's okay to be vulnerable also for these leaders, right? I mean, we are not looking at they being the omnipotent. We are not expecting them to be the perfect epitome of their self, right? It's okay. The leaders can be vulnerable in order to connect well with the people and create that empathetic thing also with his team. I've seen a lot of leaders who are vulnerable have made extremely strong leaders.
So Kalpana Morparia from JP Morgan, so she had this was after she left the organization. So she came and said, somebody asked her, what has been the secret of your success? Because she's been a statistically proven successful leader based on those parameters. And she said, I don't claim to know everything, but I hire in those pockets where I am lacking.
So possibly we are again back to the idea that you don't need that dictatorial, autocratic or narcissist leader, maybe. I think in recent times, there is a new concept which is coming up that leaders who are empathetic are the ones who really listen. And then they can actually get ideas better. They understand the grassroots better because they listen and instead of talking. And therefore they can manage well, although many of them are not very flamboyant in it. But again, if we come back to that fifth level leader, which you talked, there also it is talked that the best of the leaders were not the flamboyant ones. It was people who were down to earth, were the best leaders. Their companies did the best. So we are back to maybe this thing that maybe the whole idea of what leaders are supposed to be like, they're flamboyant and all, maybe we have to rethink. Yes, they should be able to move people, they should be able to connect people and maybe, catch the heart of the people, yes, but not through force.
Yeah, that will
not through force.
There has to be persuasion and then...
So Simon Sinek is one of the authors. He has written a lot of books on managerial things, right? He once said, the CEO is not in charge. He is responsible for the people who are in charge. So his team, who is in charge, is responsible for that team, right? So that's how CEOs today are actually operating, and they should be operating in the near future as well.
So we are now talking of, I think, one side that in an uncertain situation, I mean, we have connected with the uncertainty. One is the current situation is that the new generation is one level of maybe uncertainty unknown. And I've seen a lot of people at age group of say 50 plus getting irritated with the newer generation. I have seen that. I'm not blaming anyone. I mean, because I think there's a disconnect somewhere. There is another type of disconnect I have seen is that many people who are great in understanding the business is not understanding technology. And people who understand technology very well is not being able to really see that big business. And this is one of the problems which is everywhere. And in many organizations, I think people are grappling with senior leaders who are not really getting the business. I think you have already talked about that training. I possibly that is, people at a senior level has to also, be exposed to more and more of what are these all technologies about. May not be required to get too details into things, but maybe that what can the technology do to the business? I suppose that connection has to be there, and then you get the right people to do that.
I think one more
yes. So I'm sorry, I myself started speaking.
No,
it's
important.
We should listen.
I think this connect of millennial leaders versus Gen Z or Gen Alpha, whatever. That's obviously a huge cultural disconnect. So it's very important for people to understand, calibrate themselves, because this is the reality, right? Today, I think if I look at my own organization, we have about 500 plus people. The average age is about 28 and the leadership team is whatever 50s or some even just knocking at 60s, etc. So,
one full generation difference.
Yeah, so I think that's a huge difference. And then I think we keep saying, okay, these people are not responsible and all. I was reading an article in Economist, which is not really true. I believe when baby boomers were there, when they came into limelight, the earlier generation was saying these guys are irresponsible. When millennials came, baby boomers were saying they're irresponsible. So I think this has been always
I think
there.
our parents
The only
also
thing
told
is the
us we are
context-
irresponsible.
Correct,
So-
yeah. So the context has changed, and then we also need to look at it, because obviously you have many more options to spend your time and other things. So that that change has to happen for effectiveness to, because today
I'll tell you a
particularly
story
India.
of a generation gap. So this happened in my own family. So my husband, few years back, he quit his well-paying job and started his own startup. And then, he eventually sold this off. So my son, he's in the 12th grade and he's an aspiring entrepreneur, by the way. So my husband was trying to influence him after his 10th to go through the data analytics course. He said, analytics is the world of the future. You need to know and all of that. So my son, he says, no, I don't believe in that. I believe that as a CEO of an organization, you need to have only two qualities: finance, which is where you need to know where your money is going and where you're getting the money. The second one is a legal, so that you don't get into legal implications. Rest, I'll hire people like you. That is what he said, right? When he said this, he was just 14, 15 years that we are talking about. And that's a generation gap, right? My husband still can't accept that probably what he says is the right thing.
I
And being
think
a mother, I can easily accept because
she has got a very important point. Perhaps as a leader, the first thing is to learn from your children. And that's what I started doing, paying attention to what they're saying, how the way they are behaving, what do they, this thing, and then that helps.
Are we
You're able to connect with your
prescriptive.
children. I'm
Yeah.
sure you will connect with your younger
general
employees.
correction.
and therefore, are we talking of also the reverse mentoring as a very critical process today?
I'll tell you what
of
just
developing
happened.
the leaders. So, is it that a generation which is higher, and therefore the leaders in the organizations also are following the norms of the past, and
To a
the
large
newer
extent.
generation is getting the data very fast at their fingertips. They know also how to search the data, and therefore they are getting more current information with them.
and they know how to use that data, more
Yes.
importantly.
And therefore, is it also that the senior leaders to some extent get stuck up because of the norms of the past, which is again bringing in something of the past, and maybe therefore expose them to the current realities, current technologies, might actually break those norms out, and they start connecting to, so that will help them connect to the new generation also, the newer environment also. And therefore, again, we are back to that. I think most of what we have discussed in the last 20 minutes is learning by the senior leaders,
Learning from everywhere.
or relearning maybe that what we learned in past, maybe some of them are very important. We have
The
to
basic
retain them.
principles remain the same, but
But
how you
it's manifested in a very
implement
new
it. Correct,
way, and maybe we have to learn the new ways of things.
Yeah, and also important to unlearn.
Unlearning.
Unlearn
yes.
and then relearn. It's
And
important to unlearn first.
that unlearning also comes with, the
learning is the most difficult thing.
most difficult.
Yeah.
Again, the
Especially
whole
at our age. And I mean, we are a generation where we were listening to our parents, we are listening to our kids. I don't think anyone listens to us.
But leaders have, I think, a little more difficult situation that they need control. Leadership, absolutely, loss of control will be a problem. That is one side of the problem. But again, saying that I don't know things and I need to learn, they might fear a loss of control on the situation.
See, the control comes if they know the subject very well
Yes,
and they can give right solutions.
right.
See, many times I see in some meetings, the leader, because of the position, people give respect. It's not
Yes.
for the person,
It's the
because
chair.
it's a chair, right? So that will, a person who's sitting in the chair is not a leader.
So it's a false sense of security,
Absolutely.
maybe. Yes.
So unless they have the in-depth knowledge, experience, then people don't respect, because they can definitely feel that, oh, he's lucky, that's why he's sitting there. So that is very important. People, many times I've seen many organizations, they respect the chair. The minute that guy leaves the organization, then nobody is in touch with that person. Leader gives that knowledge or that experience or the touch what the person has given. Touch in the sense from the business side or from the people side or from anything, right? they assume even if he leaves the chair, people still respect him as a leader. So that is very, very important. And today, I don't know how the generation is. People just try to aspire for the chair rather than getting the mass or the capability to be there and, leave a mark. I don't see that. Not many leaders have that. They just accidentally they're there. Okay, lucky for back door, front door,
So I
whatever
think the
door
most
it is.
important question is how to develop them, not one or two, but in large quantities. I mean, as people move up on the top, how do you develop that orientation? But we talking also of making leaders entrepreneurial at the end. I mean, I think many of the descriptions of the leader which we are talking of is an entrepreneurial leader than a administrator per se, like, try to think new, be agile, be, flexible, yet have the aggression required, because leaders need that aggression once in a while. On the other side, again, listen to others, learn continuously. I mean, and we're talking of maybe not an entrepreneur for a startup, but a leader with that entrepreneurial orientation who can change. Pardon?
You
It's
need
an
leaders who
intrapreneur.
are risk takers.
Entrepreneur, yes.
Who are inherently
Risk takers, yes.
They have to be risk takers.
I think more, I mean, at least I feel sometimes the leaders are very administrative.
Leaders are, but maybe they require to be a little more. Maybe
they have to. Only then they are real leaders. Otherwise, they are administrative leaders. You said no, they're
Yes.
follower, leader.
Yes.
Unless you have followers, you are not a leader,
Yes.
right? So sometimes managers assume that they are leaders. A good administrator
Because
also
of the
assumes
chair. I think the chairs
They're
are the leaders.
They're
then.
managers
Yes.
actually.
Yeah.
Right?
I think experience plays a very, very vital role in terms of how you are able to handle situations as and when they come. And that, I think, also goes to a large extent in terms of differentiating, because if you're listening to your people, then the smartest one in the room will think, why do I need this person? Let me overthrow. Let me become the next. So what is that differentiating factor between you listening to the smartest person who's giving you inputs, among others, and the value that we are adding as leaders to the table? I think that is key. I think the experience that you come with, the fact that how do you stay relevant. I think in the beginning of this, you mentioned diversity. So, earlier our definition of diversity was women in the room. Now it is LGBTQ, it is women, it is people, differently abled. It is age, people who have, crossed a certain age, who have had career break, veterans. So there are so many diverse thoughts and inputs that then help you make the ultimate decision. So you're listening to everybody. So there is this typical example that they say, when you have goldfish, you have a lot of goldfish in an aquarium, you have to put a shark in there to keep them on their toes all the time as well. So that ultimate decision and the parameters that you use to take that decision and you stick by that, I think that to a great extent is that differentiating factor.
And maybe, as you were saying, the experience also might link with the business knowledge. But a person who might be very knowledgeable on a particular small domain may not understand the linkage with the bigger business. And maybe as a leader, I need to connect people to the business or their ideas to the bigger business.